If you've ever tried to learn a language, you'll know that one of the hardest things is remembering the genders. I mean, is this pen masculine or feminine? Is my shirt a guy or a girl? What about this soft toy alpaca? But if you've never learnt a language, let me tell you that it can be a nightmare. In many languages, including pretty much all the other European languages, every single object is assigned a gender. And to speak the language properly, you need to know it. The great thing for English learners is that we don't have that problem. You don't need to worry about whether to use le or la or de or het or der, die or das or el or la. We just have the. We don't assign a gender to every object we see. But here's the thing. At one point, we did. Like modern-day German, English used to have 3 genders: masculine, feminine, and a third one called neuter. And like in German, in Old English, there were 3 ways of saying the, none of which were the. If you were talking about a masculine object, instead of the, you would say se. If you were talking about a feminine object, you would say seyo. And if you were talking about a neuter object, you'd use that word. Now, it looks strange, but it sounds very familiar. It's pronounced like that. No, I mean literally, it's pronounced like that. Our word the and these 3 Old English equivalents are what are known as the definite article, because we're talking about, the soft toy alpaca. But we also have the indefinite article, which in modern English is a. In other languages, that also has to match with the gender of the object that you're talking about. So French has a and une, Spanish has un and una, and German has ein, and eine. Old English had nothing. It didn't have an indefinite article. Allow me to bring you the revelation that Old English had no word for a. But it kind of worked. This sentence here means he was a good king. What it literally says is he was good king. But it still makes sense, doesn't it? So back then, how did you know which objects were masculine, feminine, or neuter? Well, like with a lot of languages now, it was kind of illogical, but you could kind of rely on the fact that terms referring to male humans were masculine, so man, husband, boy, and the same for female humans. They were always feminine, except, of course, when they weren't. The Old English word for girl was actually neuter. It's kind of like the modern German word for girl, Mädchen, is also neuter. The CHEN at the end of the German word and the EN at the end of the Old English word are added to an object to give the impression of it being small, and that also has the impact of turning the word neuter. But even more mind-boggling than that, the Old English word for woman, withman, was masculine. Incidentally, there was also a feminine word for woman, Frau, which is kind of like the German Frau, right? If you have ever learned another language with genders, you'll know that the gender of an object also changes the words around it, not just the a and the, but also, for example, adjectives, words used to describe that object. And this was the case in Old English as well. So this sentence means the good king. The one below it means the good queen. And you can see that because king and queen are of different genders, the word good is spelt differently. But hey, we do have at least one example of this in modern English, at least one that I can think of, and that's the word blonde. If it comes before a male, it's spelled one way. If it comes before a female, it's spelled a different way. But apart from that anomaly, Why has English done away with all of this gender stuff? Well, we actually don't know for certain. It happened during the Middle English period, so between sort of 1100 and the 1400s. And the change appears to have started in the north of England and worked its way down. That's led to one of the theories why genders were lost, because the north of England before this period was part of something called the Danelaw, because it was basically being run by Vikings. And that meant people in the north of England had two languages around them. They had Old English, but they also had Old Norse. Now, both of these languages had genders, but the genders don't always match up. A bit like how now, in German, an apple is masculine, but in French, it's feminine. I'm going to be in so much trouble for drawing on the fruit. It's thought that having these two conflicting genders for the same object might have been enough for people in Northern England to just stop bothering with the gender. It's a theory. It's worth saying that we haven't done away with genders completely. Not just the blonde thing, but we still refer to he and she, and also boats and countries. We apply genders to those, despite their lack of genitals. However, English has been on a millennium-long journey towards ridding itself of the needless putting of people and objects into boxes marked gender, and with the increasing use of they instead of he or she, that journey continues. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a like and maybe share it, and it'd be great if you'd subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.